Another of Yu Suzuki's wild rides, this time on 4 wheels. This is Sega Masters. Being in the fall of 1987 means we're nearing the holiday season, which is usually the time for the game companies to bring out the proverbial big guns. The Master System wouldn't be left out, as Sega provided some rather memorable titles for their console during these last 3 months. Interestingly enough, Sega would lead off their holiday lineup with a home version of one of their bigger arcade hits, OutRun. Yet, once again Sega tries to squeeze another of their coin-op cabinets into a Master System cartridge. Debuting in 1986, OutRun was another super-scale coin-op masterpiece for Yu Suzuki, who wanted to add his own spin on the tired and true pole position formula that many driving games of that era followed to the letter. Instead of focusing on lap times and qualifying for races, OutRun instead concentrated on the driving experience itself. Simply put, you had a wild time zooming down the highway in your hot car with your girl by your side and your radio pumping out some jamming tunes. The game was another arcade success for Sega, and some game room dwellers were even lucky to experience the deluxe cabinet, which looked like a car, complete with a force feedback steering wheel and hydraulic car seats that tilted along with what was going on. Naturally, a home version was inevitable, and Sega didn't repeat the mistake they made with their previous superscalar title to appear on the Master System, Enduro Racer. If you remember back in episode 30, Sega decided against a straight conversion for Enduro Racer, and instead produced a top-down adaptation which didn't work out too well. This time around, Sega chose to give OutRun a straight-up port, and did noticeably trim it down to fit inside a 2 mega cartridge. But it actually fares better than you think, especially compared to other superscalar conversions we've seen so far, such as Space Harrier. On a side note, OutRun also ended up going against Nintendo and Square's Rad Racer on the NES, which came out in the US around the same time, and coincidentally seemed to borrow more than a few ideas from Sega's title. When you first begin the game, you take a minute to choose from one of 3 background songs on the radio. Be aware you're stuck with your selection throughout your session and can't change it. Then you head to the starting line where your Ferrari-esque car is waiting for the flag to drop to send you and your gal pal on your way. You begin your driving odyssey at Coconut Beach, looking to reach the end of a 5-part stretch of highway within a given time limit. OutRun uses the standard 3D behind the vehicle view as you dodge and weave your way around the other cars on the road, who of course get in your way, while also handling the tight curves, hills, and dips of the road itself. If you played any other Sega driving game, you should feel at home here with the same control setup. The D-pad is no substitute for an actual steering wheel, but it does an okay job of handling your car for the most part. You also have a low gear and a high gear, and knowing when to shift between the two is the key to navigating this course. As you might expect, hitting another vehicle or an object on the sideline will either spin out your car or even flip it into the air. But this time around, collisions won't cause your mode of transportation to explode as we've seen in other Sega driving games. Regardless, your car still magically appears back on the road with you and your friend unharmed, though you do lose precious seconds trying to get back on pace. At certain spots, the road splits into 2 directions, and you have to choose which fork to take, with each path leading to a new type of scenery and color scheme such as Devil's Canyon here. With luck, you also hit the checkpoint, which will extend your driving time. The highway contains multiple branches, all leading to various environments, including deserts, forests, the Autobahn, and so on. The different combinations of scenes results in 15 possible ways to take on the course, all of which lead to one of 5 different finish lines, each with their own victory animation. Multiple sessions are needed to see all the environments, adding a much needed bit of replayability that's typically lacking in driving games. As expected, this 8-bit port can't come close to matching the crazy visuals and gameplay of the coin-op, but it still acquits itself pretty well. The cars look okay and the scaling is actually pretty decent, though some choppiness does rear its ugly head. It even results in a few trippy effects like these stone arches here. At the same time, the rest of the visuals don't fare as well. Other than the few objects lining the road, the scenery is pretty barren with most of the details from the coin-op missing, while the background is pretty sparse. It also doesn't help that some of the environments have some rather funky color schemes. Much like the graphics, the 3 background tunes try their hardest to resemble their coin-op counterparts and fall a bit short. Regardless, each track is pleasant to listen to and fits in well with the game's laid-back atmosphere. An option that changed the music mid-game would have been nice. As smoothly as OutRun plays, it also sports the same high difficulty as its coin-op parent. That's mainly due to the rather unforgiving clock, which only allows you a couple of crashes if you want any real chance to reach the next checkpoint. Still, the game can be beaten with some practice, especially with knowing when to shift gears as you navigate the tight turns. Obviously, running out of time will instantly end your game, after which this course map is displayed showing how far you went during your session. Overall, OutRun does an impressive job of bringing the arcade title onto the 8-bit console. Even with some choppiness, it plays pretty well with some nice replayability thanks to the different branches. But at the same time, it is hard to ignore that better versions of OutRun have come along since this cart's initial release, especially on the Genesis and Saturn, and even the 3DS. But if you just want a nice driving title to add to your Master System library, OutRun is worthy of a spin around the corner.